Well, hey everyone, time for Geocache Talk. Whether you're at work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy the show. Please give it a like and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Radio Public, and Spotify. You can get all the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. Big thanks to the Travel Bugs for the music and our patrons, Demon Hunter 2, Electric Water Boy, Aggie Jedi Master, Antaeus, Joshua, the geocaching vlogger, Nick at Cashly, One Kind Word, Butterfly Girl, Loon Trackers, the Aussie Geocacher, Sodak Zack. I wonder what Sodak Zack is up to tonight. The Deadliest Cachers, Terrell 2, Neil Moore, Team D&D, Geocaching Adam, Peachy 1276, the No Code Geocachers, Curiosity Girl, Tick Magnet, Marsipanic, Bricker John, Firesafe, FS Abero, Geo Rick, Cache Addict Mel, Geocaching Janji, the Geocaching Junkie, Sir Drumalot, Janice, Tricasius, Tom Frey, Rugels, EGK, PBR, Casamaya, Master Sergeant, USMC, Little Gears, Albedo 0.39, It's Only Barney, Purple Turtles 3, ACDC Family, None of It Tidy, AFK Geocaching, Josh Boggs, Carrot Killer, Korsgat, Geocaching with Lampe, Bryn Tim 07, Dave and Karen of Cache Canada, Team Tailwagger, Black Chrome, Super Nate, The Twonky, Burnt Turtles, Padib, Kazelli, Dragon, Gunter Hunters, Acme Wild Cachers, P0001, ADK Sarah, Eastern Girls, KC, Billy Robson, Fox and the Hound, TX Wolf Totem, K-Blast, Landlocked Pirate Fam, Statuki, Burns Fire, Hockey Zombie, and our new patrons, Ship to Shore, A. Holly S., Geo Dandrew, Direwolf 821, Deuteronomy 31.8, Sasquatch Lover, and Anje Edamon. How was the French one on that one, Jesse? Is that close?
Perfect.
I don't know.
Better than I would have done. So
last
I'm okay with it.
Last one's French. I did my best. I always apologize to everyone because I butcher all the names. I'm very sorry. If you'd like to become a patron and hear me misread it, head on over to patreon.com/geocache talk for more details. Patrons get X tags, the new blackout coins. We still have some. If I can hold it right. Blackout coin. Yeah. Where that voice came from. And other geocaching items during the year, as well as invites to special events. Bonus content is only for patrons. Support levels start at as little as $3 a month. Let me welcome my co-host, Jesse.
Good evening.
And let's jump right in because we got a huge show tonight. Show 117 for September 23rd as we welcome to the show Bryan Roth. Bryan, welcome to Geocache Talk.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Did you ever think that you would see podcasts about geocaching?
I mean, no. When we started, I don't think that there were podcasts.
Probably not.
Were there podcasts 17 and a half years ago?
Podcaster, our good friends Sonny and Sandy and Sean, they've been doing it a long time, but not that long.
No, but yeah, I don't know how anybody would consume them.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
It's true. Back in the day, we're going to talk about the good old days in a little while because there's some funny stories I know we're going to hear tonight. So, all right, well, let's get first into some news, some geocaching news. So tonight we are releasing Clue 2-2.
And not to be too cryptic about this clue, but it's all about me.
Hey, well, you and the stash number 2.
There you go.
So it's a combo.
There you go.
But that is key that the clue to find the clue to 2-2 is it's all about Memphis, not the town. Not the city.
Or maybe, who knows? No.
Or maybe it is. Who knows? Memphis Mafia. So I like that. So as you know, we've got lots of loot. So I've got the whole pile of loot here. We're not going to have time to go through it all tonight, but I do want to mention that I've got Cashly coins in here. I've got got the Treasure X, which is in there. The actual, not just the what am I trying to say? Not just the
trackables.
The trackable, yeah. Thank you, thanks, Brian.
I got
Not trackable, but an actual like Treasure X, like you get to dig it out and have fun with that. There, I've got the ones from. We had some that were sent to us from Owain Borman over in Great Britain. He made some 3D printed caches that we wanted to put in the loot. So I've got those. I got coins from Chris Mackey. I've got coins from John Paul Barr. I've got books. I've still got one of the DuckTales trackables, and so lots of cool stuff in a lot of loot in the treasure. So we're gonna keep adding to it as time goes on. So very exciting stuff. So anyway, there you go. We're still in September, so hopefully you're finishing up your You Might Be a Geocacher If for September.
Mm-hmm. You finished yours last week, right?
I finished mine. Yep. I got the souvenir. Souvenirs are so
too.
Cool. Oh, way to go. See, Brian got a souvenir.
Did,
yeah. I got mine yesterday, so I finally was able to get out again. So
yep.
Cool.
Very cool. And then we got each month up through December we're going to do different things, which I really I like that aspect of it. Very cool. Mm-hmm. So we have a winner. Last week we had on Joni Due from Homa, the Homa Geo Tour. We talked a little bit about Brian mentioned we were talking about Geo Tours earlier. And so we had some giveaways. She gave away some cool stuff. And one of the giveaways was a email question. Send your email to us with the answer. And they did that. And we had tons of people. Really appreciate people who did that and sent in their answers. Random.org has selected someone, and they picked Carla, aka Little Sprinkles 67. So Carla, email us your mailing address, and I will get that information over to Joni, and she will send you the coin, the Homa Geotour coin. So good stuff. So she's headed up to CoinFest, as well as John Paul Barr, one of our sponsors, is traveling from Estonia all the way to CoinFest, and it's over in your neck of the woods, Brian. This is kind of cool this year.
Sure is. Yeah, looking forward to it. We're looking forward to having so many geocachers in town from all over the world. We've got the visitor center all ready to sort of receive everybody who's coming to town, and then I know there's a number of events. There's a love event at the Fremont Brewery by Annie Love.
Oh, cool.
Mia Wallace. Yeah. That's Thursday night, and there's a bunch of other events, and then Sunday should be a ton of fun at GeoCoinFest.
Yeah, that is awesome. So very cool. Well, we're going to get right into the topic tonight because we have so many questions and a lot of cool stories I think we're going to be able to hear tonight. So we're going to get right into it. Jesse's going to keep track of the chat room tonight. So if you have a question, and you can join the chat room if you're on YouTube, you need to kind of bounce over to YouTube if you're watching it on our website. You can grab the below where you are watching it. There's a link to the chat room, or if you're on YouTube, it's to the if you're looking at your screen, it's to the right. There's the chat room over to that side. So if you have any questions for Brian or for us, please ask them, and Jesse's going to kind of watch that tonight and
picked a couple of them up already. So
cool. You want to do it now, or you?
No, we'll get to them. They have a logical place.
Okay, they'll have a spot here in a minute. So
yeah.
All right. So I'm going to read a little thing I got off of geocaching.com, Brian, and then I'm going to have you sort of fill in some of the gaps as we go.
All right. I'll do my best.
Yeah, you'll do great, I'm sure. the creation of Groundspeak. So this is after there's a whole cool story about that we talked about earlier. But after the increased traffic from this is after the blue switch has been the virtual blue switch has been switched on, and everything has begun. Let's go back. Let's start with that. So at this point, of course, there's nothing. The geocaching is in the dark void of the world. There's nothing started yet. I'll be honest. I've always been kind of interested in tech stuff, but I do not remember this whole thing even kind of beginning. I know that a lot of the real Uber tech nerds probably were really keeping an eye on this, but do you even remember that day at all?
No. In fact, I didn't really know about that day until sometime afterwards.
Okay.
So if you'd like, I can tell you sort of the story from my perspective.
Okay.
Of what happened. So
sure.
I was working, I had moved out from New York in the late 90s, and I was basically looking for a job. I was an attorney practicing real estate law in Manhattan, moved out with no job. But I didn't want to work in a law firm anymore. And I came out to Seattle. It was sort of the .com days, and there were, the internet was really just getting going, and there were some interesting opportunities. And I ended up joining a company called Savvy Shopper. It was SAVI shopper.com. And it was essentially, Savvy was a men's retail clothing store, and they had raised millions of dollars from a company called InfoSpace at the time. And the goal was to take this retail clothing store and build a web presence. So it would be basically selling clothing online in, early 2000.
Right.
And so when I joined the company, Elias was there. He was one of the earlier employees trying to make it into a .com company. They had a website. The platform that was powering the website was done by a third-party company. And at that third-party company was Jeremy Irish.
Oh, wow.
And so we had this software, and Jeremy was really the one guy who knew it and could work on it. And I mean, for what it's worth, Jeremy and Elias in their own disciplines, both of those guys are just brilliant. And so Jeremy was working on the software platform. We were having trouble with the software platform as far as getting it to work for the retail purposes. And so we told his company we had an opportunity to either reject the software and say, look, we're not going to pay for it. It doesn't do what it's going to do.
Right.
But after talking with Elias, what we said is, hey, let's not reject it. What we really want is we'll accept the software, but you have to let us hire Jeremy. So they did. And, in those early days, that's when we kind of started to become friends.
Yeah.
Elias was handling all of the technical infrastructure for the company, the servers, routers, hardware, telco, alarm systems, you name it. Jeremy was managing the website. I was doing biz dev, legal, HR, all the non-technical things. A buddy of ours, and this is probably around June of 2000, a buddy of ours, trivia question answer perhaps someday, named Michael Schmidt, brought in a little yellow E-Trex that he got for his birthday.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, oh, GPS, it's satellite. And we were all sort of into gadgets and stuff. And we're like, oh, this is really cool. Well, Jeremy took it outside and, was fascinated by the little man walking on the screen as he moved around.
Exactly.
And he came back in and he's like, oh, this is really cool. He went online, discovered the news group where Dave Ulmer had posted his early days message of, hey, this could be a game, and found, Mike Teague had found it within a couple of days. And so Jeremy basically bought a GPS device and drove a couple hours away because there were no stashes at the time nearby where we were.
Right.
He was living in Bellevue. Elias and I were in the Seattle area. And he ended up on sort of logging roads. He was driving an old, like a Saturn at the time, not a car that's really good for logging roads.
Right.
Ended up in Clear Cut, got attacked by bugs, didn't bring enough water or bug spray. But he said when he found the card box, he was like, oh, this is a secret. This is a game. It's that eureka moment.
Right.
And on his way back to Seattle and Bellevue, he was thinking about different ways to make it easier to play. So at the time, it was Mike Teague's website. It was basic HTML. You would scroll through all of the stash listings and say, is there one of these near me? And you'd look at the coordinates or whatever. So he had the idea for a database-driven, zip code-based searching, enable people to be better prepared. So he came back to the office and he told Elias and I about that. And I don't remember how Elias reacted, but I'm sure I was like, cool, like knock yourself out. I sort of got it, but I didn't really get it.
Yeah.
And he built the first version of the website, launched it in early September of 2000 when Mike Teague's website went down. And within like 2 weeks, it got picked up by Slashdot. And then I want to say it was like early October, he approached Elias and I, and he approached Elias first, and he said, look, here's this hobby. It's outdoor recreation. There's no money in it, but we all like technology and outdoor recreation. What do you say? Like, I need some help. And Elias said yes. And the two of them approached me and basically said, Jeremy's like, I can do the coding. Elias can do the technical stuff, but you do all the non-technical stuff. Between the three of us, we can start a small business. What do you think? Right. And I said, knowing the guys and liking them even at that time, I said, honestly, I would love to work with you guys. Like, sure, why not? A part-time thing. It's a hobby. Sounds like fun.
Right.
So, I filed the paperwork, the articles of incorporation and the bylaws with the Secretary of State. November 3rd of 2000, we were officially incorporated as Grounded Inc. And at the same time, the .com was crashing and burning with all the rest of them. And the .com was trying to do a deal with a promotional marketing company. That promotional marketing company had clients like Starbucks and Xbox and some other big companies. They were doing promotional merchandise for those companies, but they didn't have good websites. So they said, if we put this website retail technology together with our client programs, we could build out better client programs. So as our .com was crashing and burning, the three of us all got hired by Sunrise Creative Group to go put together these deals and put together these promotional websites. And that was our paying job while we worked nights and weekends on getting geocaching.com off the floor.
Wow.
That's the true early days. Those are the earliest memories I have of Grounded Inc. Now Groundspeak.
So, and when you talk about Groundspeak now, because I find this interesting. So, you found an artifact.
I did.
And you got it with you tonight. And so, show everybody the artifact.
Right, hopefully this comes through on the webcam thing. Let's see.
Yeah.
So that basically is the cocktail napkin where we came up with the name Groundspeak and also the tagline, the language of location. And the quick story is we were Grounded Inc. at the time, and we were thinking that it didn't really tell the kind of story that we wanted to tell about who we are as a company. And we were sitting around at near one of our old offices, there was an all-you-can-eat sushi place, and it was kind of cheap, and the sushi was okay, but it was all you could eat,
right?
Which was a good deal. And so we went out for lunch one day, and we were talking, and we said, we imagine a world where there would be an adventure at every location. And that's something that's still part of our vision for the company, an adventure at every location. And we were saying, like, as if the ground, if each place could tell a story.
Right.
And it was, as if the ground could speak. And then it was, Groundspeak, like that could be a cool name. And then it was, Groundspeak was almost like its own language, the language of location. So that's where we came up with those two things. I wish I had a date on that cocktail napkin, like with anything, at the time we didn't realize that it would mean anything. But of course, to us, to have that cocktail napkin means a lot to me now to see it. There's a little bit of soy sauce on it, so I wish I had kept it a little more clean. But it's as authentic as it gets.
And you kept it, and you still got it framed.
Still got it. Really it's cool, framed,
so.
And now it's here near my desk. And if anybody wants to check it out,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Jesse, I was thinking the exact same thing you were. So y'all had some. You sold some shirts.
Yes,
to make some money. It says that there was 144 shirts that were sold.
that's correct. So
Does anybody have any of those shirts?
we do. It's the original shirt that had not just the 4-box logo, but it was like 20 something boxes, multicolor. I only have one of the original ones because I don't know, 10 years ago, Jeremy found a few of them and he's like, hey, do you think you might want one of these? And I was like, you bet I want.
You bet I do.
So I've got one of those old ones. And basically what it was we were working at Sunrise Creative Group.
Yeah.
They did in-house for their promo programs, in-house screen printing and embroidery. So Jeremy had spoken with Mitch Munger, who's the president of Sunrise, and said, we want to do a little retail site. They were already doing these programs for all these other companies. Hey, what if we do one for geocaching? And we'll see if we can generate some revenue to help pay for the servers and some of the costs that we were already beginning to incur because we didn't have any other revenue. Yeah. So Sunrise actually donated the first gross of shirts, the first 144 shirts. Yeah. We've got some old pictures somewhere of Jeremy and Elias standing in front of the screen printing machine, holding up the screen, holding up one of the first shirts.
Right.
But then we put that on, it was called Shop Groundspeak at the time. Now it's Shop Geocaching. But
sure.
That was the first revenue that we ever generated was the sale of those shirts.
Wow. And something I didn't realize until yesterday. This is bad. This tells you how out of it I am sometimes. But I was like, Groundspeak, because I've been familiar. Like we were talking about before. I've been geocaching since 06, and I've had people go, oh, when did Groundspeak go away? And it's like, well, I don't think it's technically gone away. It's just that then geocaching.com is where that's where the website is, so that's what they're focusing on. And then I put on this shirt tonight, and I noticed that in the corner, if I can do this, there's the Groundspeak logo on in the geocaching, in the official geocaching logo. You kept the Groundspeak up in the top left, and I don't know why I just didn't realize it was there. So like I said, it was kind of cool you kept it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we look back pretty fondly on all of the steps that it took to get to where we are today, and ideally we look back on these steps someday in the same way. But it was just a way of kind of celebrating where this game has come from, where the company's come from. It's certainly not a coincidence that is part of the geocaching logo.
Right? No, but it's awesome. It's sort of tucked in there really nicely. I like that.
And I think I mentioned to you just before we went on air, for those folks who come to visit us at headquarters in Seattle, the visitor center, the entire floor of the visitor center it was originally concrete, and we put like a coating over the concrete, and the finish is the Groundspeak guy. So it's that same guy, basically on the floor of the visitor center.
That's so cool. All right, so Jessica, I'm going to move on. Do you want to? Oh, wait a minute. What's going on?
Oh, look who's here!
Look it's our man at the cache, Zack. Zack, what you doing, buddy?
Not much. I saw you taking your shirt off, so I had to jump on.
Okay, yeah.
Make sure you keep it on.
Before I took it off, yeah, we don't want that.
Keep it G-rated. We're trying to keep that family-friendly show.
Let's keep the explicit rating out of the show.
That's right.
So, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. I just had to log on quickly and say hi to Bryan.
Hey, Zack. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too. For those that don't know, I got to meet him out at Gigastock this last year. That was great meeting him. And it's you saw me and we were drinking that night, and I'm drinking again tonight because we're playing the Geocache Talk drinking game in the comments.
There you go. Yeah.
What do I have to say in order for you guys to have another swig of that Coors Light?
So what you have to say is that whatever topic that has been brought up is really for another show. It's for another, and that's when everybody drinks. That's our little drinking game. As people go, oh, because I invariably either I will, most typically it's me, but Jesse will do it too. So don't say you don't, Jesse. But I will say, oh, you know, multi caches. That's actually for another show, and then people will. That's their cue. So, all right, there you go. See, there you go.
Yeah,
So,
except tonight is kind of you don't have to say anything's for another show because you got the head guy here. So
I know I got
anything goes. So
Well, I'm just drinking water at the moment, but behind the screen, I actually have a little shelf that's filled with a few different types of alcohol.
There you go.
Wow, how about that?
Yeah, just in case of emergency.
Yeah.
So give us an update, Zach. On I saw something that came out yesterday.
Huge project.
A huge project you finally completed. So tell everybody about your little project you did. That was really not little. I shouldn't say little. It's a huge project.
I saw that too, Zach. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
really.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been working on it. A few people in the show know I've been working on it for probably almost 2 years now. And part of it is just I didn't anticipate obviously getting engaged and other things in life coming up. Life's gotten busy this last year, but I finally got Fix Fizzy. My last name is Fick, Zack Fick, for those of you that didn't know. So Fix Fizzy, it's an 81 DT grid of all puzzle caches over in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, just southwest of town there. So if you look on your maps, you can check out. I hit 81 puzzles. They're all a different DT. So I challenge anyone listening to come solve them all. Come here and try to get it done in a weekend, if not an entire day.
Cool.
I like it.
So if they do finish it, do you want them to email you or something?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm working on how I can get because I can't publish a challenge specifically for that, but I want to have like an unknown fizzy challenge that I just I update with a leaderboard of like the fastest people to finish it. So it's like it's not a requirement, but it's something that's celebrated on the cache page.
Sure.
So that way,
hey Zach, I have an idea for that for you already.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about it afterwards, but tying in the AR cache to it, you can do a leaderboard to that. I know exactly how you can do it. So we'll talk about that offline.
Let's do it. And who knows? I'm just coming up with this on the spot, but maybe I'll have a little traveling trophy for whoever holds the fastest time on it that they can verify.
All fun stuff.
That'd be fun to make, actually.
That's awesome. Well, good, buddy. I'm so glad that you got that finally done. And
yeah, it's felt like a marathon, which I also recently
just ran.
That's right.
Yeah.
You just ran a marathon. You literally ran a marathon.
Yeah, there's my finishing bib, and actually I got that checked off of my
bucket.
There you go.
I got my bucket list with a bunch of little pieces of paper here that I wrote years ago, and it's actually a bucket of bucket list items.
You literally have it, and you finished the race and a literal marathon. That's awesome. Yep. Yeah, we were keeping track of that, so it was awesome.
It didn't go as fast as I had planned. I had a IT band issue at mile 12, so I ended up quickly switching to just finish my first marathon. But and he's in the chat room, so I got to give a shout out to the geocaching vlogger because I do believe he still holds the record for the fastest marathon run while also finding a geocache during the race.
That's right. He did. He found a geocache at the same time. Crazy.
So I lost to his time by I think like 11 minutes or 9 minutes or something. So.
Oh wow, you were close.
But I'm coming for you, Josh.
Good job. Really.
That is crazy.
It's all the Moga people. That's awesome. So.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, good, buddy. Thanks for popping on and giving us an update. Yeah. And we'll definitely let people know what we did tonight. And definitely, if you finish the Fizzy Grid, definitely email the owner and let him know that you've completed it, and give him an update on. Have you got anybody you think in the running? Are you starting to see some complete?
Yeah, I'd have to check the people in town. The cool thing is like 705 days ago. A few of us, I started my streak, and a few of us have been streaking, and we keep encouraging all the locals to streak.
Oh.
So that's kept. We have like 7 or 8 people.
Streak. Okay.
Yeah, Oh yeah, geocaching streak. My bad.
Yeah,
Not what you were trying to
word it.
earlier,
Yeah,
Gary.
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, my shirt wasn't coming off.
But yeah, the geocaching streak, and so I think pretty much all the active cachers in the area here are on a streak, and so they we've had a few GeoArts go live recently, and it's funny because they keep them so that they have a few that they can go get each day.
Get one a day.
Yeah. So
right.
So I'd have to check to see if anyone's finished the whole thing. I know there's some that are really close. But
okay. Good.
I don't believe anyone's done all 81 yet, but I'd have to verify that. But yeah, no, I'm pretty excited about that, and hopefully this week I can get. I'll talk to you, Memphis, but hopefully get a cache out there that can kind of keep track. Yeah, keep track of who did it the quickest and who has completed it all. So
cool.
But yeah, thanks for having me on, and Bryan, it was good to see you again. I'll just hop back in the chat room and listen to what you guys got to talk about the rest of the show.
Good seeing you, Zach. Congrats on your engagement again.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, and by the way, since he's here, thank you for Geocaching HQ made me a geocaching influencer for social media. I got a nice little forest tag here that I'm going to be taking a lot of pictures with now that I don't have to hide caches anymore. I can go out and find them. Go out in the woods again. Yep.
Yeah, right. Awesome.
So I'll be doing that. Check out the social media, and I should be getting back in the YouTube game here this week and get a few updates there and get back on track. So
cool. Sounds great.
Very cool.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it. Bye.
So Bryan, with hearing things like that, a whole fizzy done by one put out by one person, and people finding geocaches in the middle of a marathon and things like that, that leads us to that, that first question that we obviously had to ask you is, how different is geocaching than what you might have imagined it could have gotten to?
I mean, in the early days, it was basically go find a box, use coordinates to go find a box, not just use the coordinates, but painstakingly type them in with a little toggle button into your GPS. And now when you look at the things that this community has done, it's staggering. It's an ecosystem. It's a global ecosystem where you've got podcasters and vloggers and, famous cache hiders and, trackable designers and coin collectors. And, it's something that it's transformed itself in so many ways and become so multifaceted that I don't think that there's anybody back at that time who could have predicted 1/10 of what we're seeing today. But what's really cool is we know that this doesn't just come from us. This really just comes from the community. What you guys are doing, it's not like somebody from HQ called up and said, hey, we really love for you guys to do a podcast. You guys came up with the idea. And if you look at what Sonny and Sandy are doing, or Joshua Johnson, or, the folks that are organizing these giga events, this is the community serving the community. And when you get millions of people around the world and you can tap into the creativity that they have, well, then you get something that defies all boundaries, and you start to see just cool things after cool things. To see what Zack just did with his fizzy grid. Who thought of that 5 years ago? I don't know. Maybe somebody thought about it, but nobody actually thought about it and executed on that idea. And so by him and with whatever help he had going out and creating that experience, how many people are going to benefit? How many people are going to go out and have adventures and get that sense of, discovery and exploration and puzzle solving and just, that act of creating that experience will affect people's lives in a positive way. It's going to give people something fun to do. And when you magnify that and you look at it as, hey, that's one act, but there's thousands of these things taking place all the time. Well, then this ecosystem is so powerful. Back in the day, no clue. We did not know. And it's been really fun to watch. I'm delighted more often than not. It feels like turn the corner. Every new day you hear about something else new, and to see the community pushing the boundaries globally is just so exciting. It's so cool. And like, I know for all of us here at headquarters, we just feel fortunate to be a part of it. We don't claim credit for all of this, nor should we. This game belongs to all of us, and we feel like we get to play a certain role in it, just like you guys get to play a role, just like Joshua does, or Chris Mackey does, or some of these other folks. And together we've all built this. So, in 2006, Gary, when you started, like, did you think you were going to see this? No way.
No,
nobody knew this was
not a
coming.
chance.
And the cool thing is, we all benefit from it. We're all getting to enjoy it. I mentioned to you guys earlier that me, Heidi, and my younger son, Nick, took one of his friends this morning, and we went out, we hiked through the Snoqualmie Tunnel, the Tunnel of Light approach, and we went to the Ape Cache. And the Ape Cache is moved about, I don't know, 10 feet from where it was when we relaunched it, 1 year ago in August.
Right.
But it was just cool to stand there and you see the view with the guy wires with the big orange balls that we've seen in the souvenir and in hundreds of pictures, and to stand there and know that it's like, wow, this place has some extra meaning because of geocaching. It's just really cool.
Has there been, so over the years, and of course you never could have predicted any of that, right? But has there been any one thing that you heard about that the community had done or anything like that that just was the most surprising to you? I mean, I know there's so many things for you to, they're on all 7 continents, and, people tattoo game pieces on their body, and there's, out of all the things that are out there, I mean, was there one that you were just like, yeah, I didn't see that one?
I can't believe it. Yeah, I can't believe it.
I guess offhand, it's hard to say, because there really have been quite a few things where it's just like, man, that's amazing. Like, oh, there's a travel bug at the space station. Like, you got to be kidding me. That's an example of something that it's like, really, Richard Garriott, Lord British is taking this up in a rocket, and there's at the space station. That was pretty staggering just to hear about it. For me, I think that some of the coolest things that I hear about are like the impact stories. Like, when you hear about individuals whose lives have been profoundly changed because of this game. For me personally, sure, I met my wife and my adopted son Dylan at a geocaching event in 2001.
So cool.
Aside from my role in this company, the fact that my family I met my family as a result of this game. So for me, it's had a profound effect on my life. But we do this thing. We have a monthly company meeting at headquarters, and we always start off with the mission. And we say, our mission is to inspire and enable discovery, exploration, and adventure. And that's what we want to achieve. One of the other aspects of the company meeting is we'll do community stories. And it's the community engagement team. From time to time, we'll hear a story about either it's a really cool cache, or more often than not, it's about how somebody's life was affected by the game. And there's, single dads who have reestablished a relationship with their teenage daughter because now they have something to do together, and they weren't able to connect because having a teenage daughter kind of does that to you, I would imagine. I have 2 boys, so I don't really know for sure.
I have one of those, so yeah.
So there you go.
There you go.
But we heard a story. It was over a year ago, and I'm not going to get the facts 100% correct, but you'll get the gist of it. But it was a dad who wrote to us, and I want to say he was in Sweden, and he was saying that he has a severely autistic child who is nonverbal, and that child could not leave the house. And so as a family, if they would take the child out, the child would just panic, and they became a family that was essentially trapped in their house. And he said that they introduced the game as this concept of treasure hunting, and the child understood it enough so that if they said, hey, we're going to go treasure hunting, the child would sit in the car, and they were able to leave, and they were able to go out and have these experiences as a family. And he wrote to us to tell us, like, this is what this game has done for my family. It's changed all of our lives. And
Wow.
I got to tell you that there were very few, if any, dry eyes in the entire room at this company meeting, knowing that, hey, we again play a part in this overall community, but to know that some of the stuff that we're doing helps to enable stories like that, there's no better form of success than to do things like that. And when you see, like, that's one story, and there are many of those stories out there, people who will come up to me at an event and they'll say, you know, I wasn't leaving my house because I was terribly overweight and I couldn't walk, 25 feet without having to sit down. And now I've lost 140 pounds and I'm walking 3 miles a day. And this game has freed me from the bondage of my own sort of physical challenge. That's something that for everybody that hides a cache, for every volunteer that's helping to translate the website or publish caches, or for you guys, spreading the word and helping to tell people about the nuances and sort of the beauty of this game, like, all of us are responsible for helping to change these people's lives. And so, look, this is what we get to do. My goodness, we're all so fortunate just to be a part of it.
That's awesome.
When you were telling those stories, there was people in the chat rooms kind of telling their own similar story too. And there's so many of those just flying through there, that how it's impacted their life. And that's pretty amazing. It almost made me forget that somebody mentioned that you also created a Scrabble word. So
that's true.
Cache became a Scrabble word. That was like the coolest thing when it showed up, and then people started telling their stories, and I totally forgot all about that because
that's right.
I was sharing at the same time. That's crazy.
That's right. The Scrabble thing. I remember it was Heidi and I used to go to this coffee shop every morning before work, and I walked to and from work most days. We would go to coffee with our younger son and dog, and then she would go home, he would go to school, and I would walk into the office. But this guy at the coffee shop who doesn't really speak much, and we saw him there all the time. He just sort of kept to himself. One day he said to me, he's like, "Hey, you're the geocache guy, right?" And I was like, kind of, like, I'm not sure what that means, but sure. And he's like, "Look," and here he is, when he's sitting at this little table, he's doing the New York Times crossword puzzle every day. And so he said, "Look, it's geocaching is in the New York Times crossword puzzle."
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, apparently we've arrived in some form." But like, right. Scrabble word, crossword puzzle.
Puzzles. That's awesome.
It's interesting because in the early days, and one of the things that's changed the most, honestly, is in the early days when people would say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, have you ever heard of geocaching?" They're like,
"Nope."
"Geo what?" Like, geocaching? Like, no, I haven't. That's changed. So now it's like, "Oh yeah, my brother-in-law does that," or "I've tried it," or "I did it a couple times," or "Yeah, I'm actually into geocaching." So it's been nice seeing this game take a kind of a bigger place in people's mind share, or at least in their sort of degree of awareness.
Yep.
I think it's a major part of people's lives, and even in good times and in bad. But I mean, people literally plan their yearly vacations, and they do, it's a part of family life for a lot of people. My family included, but it really is. And it's funny that people, I always forget now when people haven't heard about geocaching. I'm more shocked about that now than the other way around. So it's so mainstream now. It's just kind of part of everyday life.
Right. I mean, Geo Paul told a story this week where he's in London, and there was a woman there who she had injured herself, and he was helping her. I think we're at the airport. And he was helping her kind of get going and get onto a plane. And he goes, "Oh, well, how'd you hurt your ankle or whatever?" And she was like, "Oh, you're not gonna believe this. I was doing this game. I know you're not familiar with it. It's called geocaching." And Geo Paul is like, he vlogs every week. He was like, "You got to be kidding me!" It's like, of course I know about geocaching. So you get the opposite sometimes, where you get somebody who runs.
Oh yeah, and it's instant friends. You meet a stranger,
Yes.
and it comes up as instant friends no matter where they are. So it's great.
That's a really good point.
Mhm.
And you guys know it as well as I do. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a geocacher and you're traveling somewhere in the world, go post in their Facebook group or go post in the forums and say, hey, I'm going to be in this city in Turkey or, wherever it is. And people will be like, have an event. We'll have an event for you. Come out. We'd love to meet you. Come caching with us. Or you can stay at my home, and you have instant friends all over the world just by virtue of being part of this community. And I was saying this to you a little bit earlier, Gary, but at a time when there are so many things that divide people from one another, whether it's religion or politics or economics, you name it, geocaching is one of those things that really brings people together. Like, everybody is welcome, and that's as it should be. I said to you earlier, I don't think I've actually said it before, but it's like, put a bunch of geocachers from all over the world in a room together, and we could solve some serious problems because we know how to get along. We know how to work together, and especially work together for the benefit of each other. That's one of the beautiful aspects of the whole game.
Oh my gosh, yes. You're absolutely right, Brian. Okay, we got lots of questions. Let me get to
how are we doing?
We can't go for 3 hours tonight. So I got to know a little bit. Give us a little bit of how the whole Project Ape thing came about. The whole choice. I mean, and people can go read if they're not familiar with Project Ape. They can go do the reading on it. But just how you were approached to put these caches out, and it's like, what do we? How did that all come about? That you remember?
Sure. The truth is, I don't remember a lot of the details, especially on that one. And I would say a lot of the credit for that overall promotion really goes to Jeremy.
Okay.
So 20th Century Fox reached out to us, and they said, hey, we've got this Planet of the Apes movie coming out. We'd love to do some sort of promotion. We see that you guys have this cool game that most people in the world really don't know about, but what do you think we could possibly do together?
Wow.
And I want to say that it was Jeremy who came up with the idea of hiding, a dozen caches in different cities around the world. And Fox had the idea of creating the storyline of alternative primate evolution, which was the backstory.
APE.
And then Jeremy really built, I'm sure with Elias's assistance, although I don't really know the technical details.
Yeah.
But he built the functionality that would allow us to, say to the community, hey, the first one is in this hemisphere. And then, later on in the week, we would say it's on this continent, and then it's in this country and city. We'd narrow it down and then say, here's the coordinates, on a Friday night or whatever. And then people went out and started finding them. I think that there's one, if I'm not mistaken, like the one in Japan had never been found, something like that. But it was really
crazy.
So much of that came from Jeremy's just creativity. And then I know Markwell helped to hide one in Chicago, and Mountain Bike and Jeremy hid the one out here in near Hyack at the Tunnel of Light mission, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then
Brazil.
And as they started getting sort of stolen, unfortunately, Jeremy made the call and he said, look, if the original cache container is gone, we're archiving it and they're done. And I think that in hindsight, that was just the decision. We probably could have made any other decision, and this might have turned out differently. But that decision sort of led to us having, at least a couple of years ago, one left in Brazil, and quite a few people booking their tickets to go to Brazil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'd love to go myself personally someday. I aspire to go there. And there are some folks in Brazil who are pseudo famous because they're the guides that lead geocachers when they go.
Right.
And those guides were in Seattle maybe within the last year, maybe a little bit longer than that. And they came to Seattle, and I got to meet them, and they said, all right, when are you coming to Brazil? And I said, well, as soon as I can swing it, which I'm not sure how soon that's going to be.
Yeah. It's just crazy how you got down to you get down to one. And then of course there's the whole story about how the other one was found and all that. We don't have time tonight to talk about that, but just the fact that now
Save it for another show.
Save it for another show. Yeah, that's for another show. So take a drink. We're back to 2. But yeah, great stories. We had Chris on. I had Chris on even before Jesse was co-host. I had him on like early, like show 6, and we went through the whole story about how he went out there and did the whole how he got out there and eventually got out and found it and all that. So it's a cool story. But anyway, so yeah, that's a lot of amazing things, but 2001, the whole Project Ape thing is kind of fascinating. So, all right, go ahead, Jesse.
But if that decision wasn't made and they were all kept around, it wouldn't be special now. People wouldn't be flying to Brazil to go get them if they were still all over the place. Those are the decisions that make those things more rare and more special.
But something, I think had the decision been made differently, what we would probably see, just knowing the geocachers as we know them now, is people would be trying to get all 12 of them.
Right.
Or, they would be, it would be who's done it and who hasn't done it yet.
Right. That's true.
That's true.
All
geocachers are that insane and intense about things. If there's a list, they're going to complete the list.
It's such an interesting characteristic of certainly not all members of the community, but some of them are just passionate or numbers driven or completion driven. The Delorme challenges, and we were talking earlier about finding caches in different counties and filling out a county map of a state, and it's different ways to have fun with this game. And people will say to me like, oh, do you like this or you don't like it? And it's not for me to decide. If people want to play a certain way, as long as it's not negatively affecting other people or sort of negatively affecting the systems that power the game, hey, find your fun the way that you want to do it. Some people really love, nanos in the forest. It's not my thing. If you could put a big cache there, please put a big cache there.
All right. So there's so many questions that are going through the chat room. We're going to have to hit you with some of these. So
go for it.
Is there anything that you've thought of that you'd like to see in the future, or?
Yes, certainly. Okay. Plenty of things. I think one of the things that we would like to do as a company is we'd like to do some things to encourage more quality cache hiding. Whether that's incentivizing quality cache hides, acknowledging them, sharing them. I think the more that people can see some of the examples of some of the incredible caches that people have built, the more likely it is that they'll say, oh, wow, I can do something like that. Or now I have an idea, create the spark. Because, as with any form of media, there's some crappy caches out there. There's some things that aren't the best experiences. Look, that 3.something million caches worldwide. If we could, check a crystal ball and say, what's the worst caching experience out there out of 3 million, none of us probably really want to do that. But if we were to do it the opposite direction and say, what are some of the best caching experiences? Some of those are groundbreaking, game-changing, uber creative. And those are the things that I think will drive this game forward to the next level. What I would like to see, one of the things that I'd like to see is ongoing adoption of new technology where it makes sense to do so. Right now, some of you know that we're doing some experimentation with AR caches. I think it's cool. The geocaching itself, our site is kind of a platform. It's a tool set, and we want to keep enhancing the tools and then put put those tools in the hands of people who will wield them to create something that's fun for everybody.
Right.
And over time, you know, in the early days, it was a little yellow E-Trex, and there was no mapping or anything. You just saw the little guy with your breadcrumb, you know, track log. But things have changed drastically. Now we've got these pocket computers that can do so many different things, and we'd be foolish to think that this is, you know, hey, we've reached the pinnacle of technology. You know, the constant is change, and we're going to see new technologies. And for us, it's always a challenge of how can we not only adopt it, but incorporate it into the system in a way that's going to unlock the creativity of geocachers who maybe haven't even joined the game yet, or haven't placed their first cache yet, or, you know, so how can we make this game, how can we continue to enhance the tool set so that the creators out there can build more fun experiences to share with other people? That's what I'd like to see, is just more adoption of those things.
Right.
So having said that, do you think AR caches in some form, whether it's Groundspeak coming up with their own app or using a third-party app, do you think those are going to be kind of the future, at least a future portion of caches, and stick around for a while? Or
it certainly has the potential to be a future part of this game. I mean, why not? You look at AR in general, and AR is a technology that's being used by a number of different companies in a variety of different ways. But when we look at AR, we say, wow, the potential for AR when you couple it with something like geocaching is more adventure, more discovery, more exploration. And again, put it in the hands of the creative people and let them build something cool. I think there's a lot of potential there. So for us right now, we're trying to be pragmatic. We're also trying to say, hey, before we go build something, you know, that we think we should build, why don't we experiment? Let's see what the community wants to do. Let's see what's working and what's not working. And then we've got some decisions to make. Do we want to go build an app? Do we want to create a cache type? I mean, cache types are, we very reluctantly create a new cache type because that, you know, that has a lot of implications. But I think all of those things are potential possibilities, especially with a new technology like AR. So for right now, you know, we just extended the experiment a little bit. We are measuring and we are watching and we are trying to learn. And then at some point we'll take that and ideally we'll do something cool with it.
Cool.
So since you brought up cache types,
go for it.
Since you brought up the topic of cache types.
Challenge caches will at one day rate their own cache type. I know they're still kind of in review and they cause reviewers a lot of headaches. Do you think that'll ever be a new cache type, or do you know that there maybe is a new cache type on the horizon somewhere?
So the truth is, I don't know at this point whether it will be a new cache type. I think it's certainly a possibility. But I also, and the community volunteer reviewers can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is with the changes that we've made to the system, we've alleviated a lot of the burden that the reviewers formerly had. Not to say that we've completely eliminated it, but I think we've addressed, the purpose of it was, it was a burden. And a lot of the reviewers were saying, hey, this is just too hard to do. It's too hard to know what's a good challenge, what's not a good challenge. The last thing we want to do is have them in a position where they have to say no and have cachers feel like, oh, why'd you say no to them? Like this one on the other side of the world got approved and it's just like it. And so our job when it comes to those kind of things is to try to create a standard that can be applied fairly and ideally as easily as possible for the reviewers, so that we're just setting expectations on both sides of the equation. If we can say to cache hiders, look, in order to do the challenge, in order to create a challenge, here's kind of the box that it needs to fit in, it becomes an easier task for the volunteers to review it and say yes or no. So the short answer is I don't know if it's going to become a cache type. I know that we are still monitoring it. I know that Chris was very heavily involved in that process, and he's an exceptional geocacher with really, really solid insights. And the way that I look at it is that's not my decision to make. As a company, we're going to work with the community. We're going to work with the community volunteers. And at some point we might do it. At some point we might not do it. I'm really not sure just yet.
Has there been any discussion now that the virtuals have kind of gone through the year and couple, what was the final? We never got a final total. We were doing a Brian, we were doing a virtual watch to see if the 4,000, we ended up with a couple thousand, I think. Jesse,
something like that. Yeah, I don't know the total.
Yeah, it was way less than half. I mean, it was
well, not way less, but
around half. But it wasn't. Yeah, because I'd guessed 3,000. It was way less than that. So
yeah, we're right about 2,000. So
yeah.
So how did geocaching.com feel about? Because like you said, there from our perspective, I think Jesse and I feel like that there were a lot of good virtuals put out. There's also but in 2000 you're not going to have 2,000 great ones. You're going to have some stinkers. But what is the thought from geocaching.com as far as how that process went?
I think that the end result of getting another 1,600, 1,800 virtuals into the world was absolutely a success. The reason that they went away was because it was just so subjective. People would say, hey, I hit a virtual, come check out the crosswalk in front of my house. Yeah. And a reviewer was like, I don't really want to publish this. This isn't cool. Why are we going to have people go there?
Yeah.
And it was like, well, what are we supposed to do with this? And so we said, hey, we can't have every random location that people think is special to them going into the data set and becoming a virtual. It degrades the overall experience. Yeah. So our goal with the virtual rewards process was to try and identify cache hiders who take the craft seriously and who have created something great. We went with an algorithm that in hindsight was not perfect. We know that pretty well. We've heard from a lot of people. And I think what we ended up with was some cache hiders who absolutely, deserve to get a virtual reward and have gone out and created something great. We selected some people through this algorithm, and we ran the algorithm, and it basically gave us the user names or the account numbers. And we said, okay, we're not going to mess with it. So it means that Brian doesn't go in and get to say, oh, but what about this guy? He's not on the list like Adam. We said, all right, we're going to purely take this algorithm.
Right.
I think we got some false positives and false negatives. And so, I met a geocacher about a month ago, just outside of Frankfurt. His name is Staubfinger, and he's pretty famous out there in Germany. And he's done this series of caches based on Dexter, the TV show.
Oh, nice.
My goodness, these things are so creative, and they've got tons of favorite points, and there's a waiting list of people for months and months to go do these caches. He did not get selected for a virtual reward. So when we look at cases like that, there's plenty of them, people who would have done a fantastic job that just didn't get selected. And it's like, all right, well, that's certainly a downside. And then we had people who got selected, and people would be like, oh, great, they placed these few caches, but they haven't been to the website in 9 months. We're like, all right,
whoops.
Well.
Oh, well,
so,
we missed it.
At the end of the day, I think it was a win for the community because there's more virtuals out there. We could have, the algorithm probably could have been better. And, personally, I would like to see us do something like that again in the future. And if we do, we'll look at it a little bit differently and find another approach. And ideally we have even better success than we did with this one.
So with virtuals, and I've always heard that same thing, and obviously that confirms that rumor or whatever is true, is that people were just putting them in locations that were no good, and that's kind of why they went away.
A lot of course didn't get, like you were saying, that they went to the wrong person, but yet they didn't put one out.
No, not the new ones. I mean the old ones.
Oh,
before.
the old ones.
Like,
Okay.
you know,
Oh, yeah. Well, that's kind of, and we don't have time to get into tonight, but I mean, and that kind of what waymarking. I mean, some people love waymarking, but I mean,
that's for another show.
I love Waymarking. For what it's worth.
Well, in fact, we're going to try to do a waymarking show, but waymarking, I guess, and you could, tell us if this is correct or not, but waymarking sort of needed to come about to the way it came about because of what it was becoming. And so maybe waymarking worked out the way it should have worked out.
So like virtuals, what about webcams? I've never really heard a reason why those kind of went away. And we do kind of a webcam watch. It's one of the things we do on here, and down to like 109 active in the U.S. now, whatever. So they're shrinking. So it's something for us to watch.
Eventually, might go to nothing. So
what was kind of the reasoning behind those? And is it, of course, the speculation is that, the virtual kind of caches that don't lead to a final don't really fit in with the philosophy of geocaching. Is that somewhere close to?
I don't really know. I'm not exactly sure why webcams were changed. I know that, what was it with webcams? It when we moved them to the waymarking site, it just felt like, all right, it's almost like a category of locations, but was it really a cache? I mean, virtuals aren't really a cache either, but it was like a virtual type. We have talked about doing something like virtual rewards with webcams.
That'd be great.
I think it would be great too. At the same time, I don't know that we're actually going to do it. It's it's not like I could say I want this to happen, so please make it happen. We have a lot of really smart people here who are going to look at the community and look at what's happening and look at the website and say, does this make sense for us to do? I'd like to see it. I've enjoyed the webcams that I've done, and it's back in the early days when we didn't have the smartphones to do them. It was phone a friend and be like, go to this URL and just take a picture and email it to me. And it wasn't this instant gratification that we can get now with webcams. But I'm actually one of the administrators of the webcam group on Waymarking. So I'm passionate about it. I'm an administrator of the webcam group, of the independent coffee shops group, public and private golf courses, the painted fire hydrants, and a couple of others. I've always just found those things to be fascinating.
To keep webcams high quality, did you ever think about like tying them to geotours maybe?
No, in other words, no, I had not thought about that. But
just thinking, they don't go the way of the virtuals. I mean, it seems like it could be a disaster if you just open webcams up to everybody, right? There'd be, hey, this is in my backyard, come get it.
Right.
And now everybody's got a webcam. I think you're right. And it's the same
doorbells,
thing with like,
the ring. You'd have a
hey, I'm on your front porch.
Ring the door, not after 9 o'clock.
Hey, do I get credit for this cache? Come on.
FTF on the front porch. Well, it's like virtuals. We know that we can't just open up virtuals again because we'd have the same problems that we've had in the past. Same thing with webcams. But I think that, there's a possibility for us to find ways to identify good cache hiders or hiders that at least understand what we're looking for and go out and something about the scarcity also. If you know that you can just do one, are you really going to put it at the tree in front of your house or the crosswalk? Well, if you are, hopefully it's a really special tree. But otherwise, go pick a location that people should really go to. And if we do it that way, I think, there's no guarantees with anything, but it's an odds game. If we can increase the odds that these are going to be more special, well, then that's part of what I think we should be doing as a company. And it's ultimately better for the community if we do it.
Yeah.
Very cool. You want to hit that one, Gary, I know you're dying to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the one I'm highlighting right now in the show notes. Well, let's reset for a moment. Is there anything, Jesse, that you want to? Are we okay for questions at this point, or you want me to keep going? I guess
there's tons of questions, but I think we're hitting the most, and I know we want to ask about the one you're wanting to ask about. So anything else that's you know, we talked about the future kind of a little bit and the big surprises along the way. Is there anything else that just stands out as what you see developing? You know, like we talked about Wherigo's kind of behind, because everybody knows I'd have to ask you about Wherigo's, right? Because
Sure.
I don't know.
Which he did. He did
I love
before
those.
the
Yeah,
show
we talked about
started.
that before the show, but you said good news to me. So Wherigo's are not going away.
Yeah, we have no plans to take Wherigo's away. Specifically with respect to those, when we launched them, we were really ambitious, and we tried to build a platform that would allow for really complex multi-stage gaming in a way that was, I think, maybe ahead of its time, or maybe too complicated for most people. But we tried to build in non-player characters and items and inventory and locations and triggers and zones of influence. And in doing so, we made it so complicated that you really had to know how to code in order to create one of these experiences. And we realized pretty soon after that in order to really make it more accessible and take the platform where it needed to go, we would have to stop paying attention to geocaching. We just didn't have the resources to do both. And we felt like our mandate was really to support the global geocaching community. And so while we didn't shut it down, we allowed it to continue, and the community has kind of picked up the baton and created other builders and other players and things like that. And people are still creating really cool experiences. One of the things that we have done, and this kind of ties into the question, I think, a little bit, is we built the Lab Cache program, which is really a Where I Go light. You know, it's right now it's some locations, some multimedia, very limited triggers with the question and answer. But the builder is relatively easy to use. It's it's a builder platform that's a website, and you go in and you can identify the coordinates, attach the media, say, you know, do you want the video to play before or after the person answers the question, things like that. We've given that to mega event and giga event organizers, and we've said, this is a way to solve the problem of you've got a few thousand people coming to your neck of the woods and you're having a big event. And if you're going to go out and place a series of caches, well, now you've got this ongoing maintenance, and you've got to find good locations for them. And those caches have to be durable and things like that. We had gone to Fumble After Dark in Sweden. And in the early days of Fumble After Dark, they would create these caches just for the night. And some of them were electronic and puzzles, and many of these things couldn't stay out in the woods for more than a night. And so we said, well, how can we, and it was a super cool experience. We said, how can we enable them to create these really cool experiences, but not require a 3-month placement or permission from a landowner for an extended period of time, or to have somebody sitting and monitoring the cache to make sure that the people who are playing get the right kind of experience. So we came up with the Lab Cache program. And I think right now we've got megas and giggers are using lab caches. We have some external experiences. So we've worked with the Antietam Battlefield has a lab cache series where you can learn about the battlefield through video and text. We think that's a really cool application for lab caches. There's one at the Museum of Flight. There was one at the Arnold Arboretum at Harvard University that's no longer there. That was a multi-stage botany lesson. And so we look at that and we say, what else can we do with this platform? And then how can we put it in the hands of geocachers? So something for the future that I'd like to see is maybe we can continue to augment the lab cache system so that it approaches sort of that vision for what Where I Go was supposed to be, but in a way that's much more accessible both to builders and players. And if we do that, I think it could add another element to the game. It can help us extend geocaching in certain ways. So, you know, one of the other challenges for geocaching, imagine you're a school teacher and you say, wow, I can get students out of their chairs. I can get them on the ball field learning a math lesson or a history lesson by placing geocaches there. Well, they can't place public geocaches there because they don't want random geocachers showing up on school grounds. That's a non-starter. But if we could give them access to this builder tool and say, hey, now you can create this experience, but it can be private just for your students, that presents an interesting opportunity both to allow for some compelling multimedia-based education, but also do it in a way that leverages geocaching as a platform, gives these students the ability to get out of their chairs and get that sense of adventure, exploration, and discovery, which again is part of our mission as a company. So how can we leverage some new tools to expand the definition of what a geocaching experience might be, and then keep ourselves open to the possibility that these tools may incorporate technology that we haven't seen yet. And if we do that, then I think we're doing what we're supposed to be doing as a company and helping to support the creativity that's ultimately going to come from the community.
Very cool. One last one, Gary, before you ask yours, because I just want to make sure I represented the chat room pretty well tonight.
Yeah, that's fine. No, you're good. That's why
the subject of benchmarks came up too. Are those going to hang around for a while? Or I know there's not really much you can do with those, but they're kind of in there, and that's a whole like subculture. People really go after those.
There's no plan to get rid of them at this point. We sort of deprecated their presence a little bit on the website. It used to be like its own tab back many, many years ago. Funny that you should ask. I just heard from somebody literally last week suggesting that they had a contact that might enable us to update the data set. So it's old. And when we first got it, it was just a big jumble of data. And Elias did a ton of work to parse it so that we could ultimately get it into a consumable form so that we could put it on the website. That has not been updated, I think, since he did that project. So it is a bit stale. I spoke with our director of IT, Ben, and I said, hey, what's it going to take to do something like this? Is it a possibility? And he said, the truth is he doesn't know, but let's have the conversation. Let's get on the phone with them and see in what form do they have these updates. Is there something we can do to kind of improve the system for those people who are really into benchmarks? And, unless it's a tremendous amount of work, sure, I'd love to see us do it. But again, that conversation literally started this past week. So hopefully it's something for a later show.
Cool. Hey, there you go. Yes.
See what I did there?
I know.
I'm trying, chat room. I'm doing what I can.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Can I ask my question now, Jesse?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Because I have about 3 more hours worth of questions I could easily ask.
I know. Well, we're going to have Bryan back someday and we can go through all our.
I would come back. Yeah, let's do some stuff. And
we appreciate it.
Come back. And if you do a waymarking show, let's see if we can get Boutron on there. Boutron is the head of our web engineering department. It's Sean Boots. He's been with us for 14 years.
Oh, wow.
He was originally hired. When he was originally hired, his first project was to build Waymarking. And anytime there's an issue with it or it goes down or whatever, we're like, hey, Sean, if you can fix that. And like me, he cares about it. And so that's why it's still going, really.
Very cool.
We're fascinated with that just because we just don't know as much. I mean, we've waymarked, but
neither one of us ever really been into it enough to even talk about it. So
so we've got to get we know our limitations, and so that's what we get on, because we don't know all of it, and that's why we'll go get great guests, and that's
And there's folks that, like with geocaching, there's folks that are really into waymarking and submitting waymarks every day. I mean, I want to say we're at like 825,000 waymarks worldwide.
Wow.
That's 825,000 approximately user-generated points of interest. That's just a tremendous amount of content. And I think that, like with Wherigo, we've focused on geocaching and we've allowed those things to exist with no plans to shut them off. It would be nice. I aspire to have us, with the resources to actually do a little bit of work with those. It'd be cool to have a waymarking app that would allow you to both find them or submit new waymarks. I just think it would be cool. Yeah. But again, right now, we're focused on geocaching, and we're not shutting them off. But again, I aspire to have this company have more resources so that we can do some work on both of those.
Very cool.
And now that geocaching's been around for a number of years, and we're coming up on 20 years, it's coming
20
up.
years.
And you you have said before the show that you've agreed to shake the head down, Bryan. Say yes. No, I'm kidding.
Not yet.
You can reveal tonight what the plan is for 2020.
Well, here's what I would say. If there was a plan,
You like the way I did that?
yeah, I do. I really do. If there was a plan, you guys would probably already know about it. Here's what I will say is 20 years of geocaching is something that we would like to celebrate in some form.
Yeah.
We're actively looking at options right now. And as soon as there's some announcement that we can make or some info that we could share with the community, we will do that. Whether it's a multi-event worldwide or a party here in Seattle or something else, we'll let folks know. If we can get Elon Musk to fly a few of us to the space station,
There you
that
go.
might be a fun way to celebrate. But we'll see. I think that's a little ways out of our budget.
Well, but I think speaking from the community side, I think I appreciate the fact that you guys are thinking about it and you're kind of mulling over what is it that we can do to kind of celebrate.
Absolutely. We are. Yeah, we'd love to. And it's funny because I was just at the event Am See, just outside of Frankfurt, and I got asked that question more than a few times. Basically by people, somebody came up to me and said, we can fill a plane with German geocachers, and we have a pilot who is a German geocacher, and we'd love to just let us know when so that we can start the planning.
Right.
And I think that'd be really cool if we can make it happen, but there's a lot of work that needs to go into it, and we're taking some steps.
Very cool. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. That's why I'm waiting on going to get the Ape Cache in Seattle. I'm not saving off my trips till next year.
See, we're all kind of all trying to make.
There's a lot of people that are already talking about whatever happens.
Yeah,
planning a trip, just thinking it's going to be near Seattle. That's a logical location. So everybody's kind of waiting. Well, I want to wait till next year to go. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we've got some info to announce in the next few months. Hopefully it doesn't take too long.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we're starting to wrap up for tonight. I don't know. I think I'm going to leave a bunch of stuff on the table because I'm going to use that as fodder to say, Bryan, I got to have you come back on at some point because I got a lot of unanswered questions. So
great. I'll do it. I'll come back.
Appreciate that. So let's just go and go around the room and wrap things up tonight. Jesse, I'm going to let you kind of kick off our final.
For my final thoughts, I could talk for a long time about it, but I'm gonna take my opportunity and say what the chat room's been saying, which is thank you for coming on the show tonight. And they think it's very, very cool that somebody is high up in the company and somebody is invested in this company is taking the time to come on and share this information with us. And not everybody that's the president of every company doesn't go and meet all its customers, right? And you're kind of, this is a way to kind of meet the customers, and it just shows how geocaching is really involved with its people. It's not just some company putting out a product. They listen, and they're interactive with people. And I think that's been said about 15 times now in the chat room is thank you for coming on and and just meeting us meeting us where we are.
Thanks for having me. And honestly, I'm a geocacher. I love this game. And my favorite part of this game is the community and the people and the way that this game has affected people's lives and brought us all together. So I have a role to play just as you guys have a role to play. I'm a geocacher like everybody else. And for me to get to come on a show like this and have people even remotely interested in what I have to say, I can tell you guys the stories and tell you what it means to me, but I'm just like everybody else. You know, I have it's been 17 and a half years, and I could not feel more fortunate to get to work here at HQ with all these. There's so many wonderful people here, and for what it's worth, those people care. They care about this game. They care about the community. We want to do more. And so for, you know, this isn't hard for me. I get to come here and talk to you guys and just answer questions. It's a real treat. So, you know, thanks for having me, and for everybody that's tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope to meet all of you either out on the trail or at headquarters or at some event somewhere. And if you do, my lights just turned out because I'm not moving around enough.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. But it's a real treat, and I consider myself real fortunate to be a part of it. This game's changed my life as well. It's brought me my family. It's brought me my daily like joy just getting to be a part of it. So thanks for having me on the show. It's really a treat.
Oh, that's awesome. We're so appreciative. You said, Jesse, do you have a last?
There's one last question. Do you let people know what your geocaching name is, or is that kind of a secret?
No, it's no secret at all. It's not very original either. It's Bryan, Bryan.
People were asking in the chat room. So.
It is so. Jeremy's username is Jeremy. Elias's username is Elias. My username is Bryan.
Wow.
Yeah, if you have a first name as your username, you're probably like, you know, an OG. You're an original geocacher. There's no doubt about it, right?
Charter.
You know, it's interesting. My member number, I want to say, is like 127, which is you would think it would be in the single digits or whatever.
Right.
But I even back then, you know, I was excited about the prospect of kind of helping to serve this community and support the game. But I wasn't a geocacher when we started. I understood it, but I didn't have a GPS. I hadn't really started to play. So it took me a couple of weeks to actually create my account. My account is from September 2000. But if you look at Mountain Bike, for example.
Yeah, Mountain Bike.
He's user number 24 on the website. Right. And if I look at the accounts we have, and obviously a lot of people aren't active, but we've got over 25 million user accounts.
That's incredible.
25 million. So, you know, to have your first name as a username, it's early days, big time.
That is so awesome. That's funny. All right. Well, like I said, and so Bryan, we really do, from Jesse and I, we do appreciate you coming on our little show and giving us such great time tonight, and it means a lot to us, and we just can't tell you how much it means to us. We'll be talking about this for a long time, but we're looking forward, like you said, we're looking forward to doing this again someday. So we're going to talk quickly about some upcoming shows. Next week, Jesse and I are going to tackle an interesting topic: geocaching ethics. So that's show 118 next week. We're also going to reveal some announcement for this coming year, this coming holiday season. So looking forward to announcing that. So stay tuned. Come back next week and hear about that. Then in 2 weeks, we're going to, and this is Jesse's idea. I love it. The topic and even got the title for it, is called "How Not to Make a Multicache." So come listen to us tell you how not to do it. No, it'll be a fun show. We're going to talk about multicaches and how not to do them, because we've done some bad ones in the past, but we want you to make good caches. So, you know, that's what Bryan's told us. We got to start making better caches. And so we're going to tell people, hopefully share some ideas of how to make good multi-caches. So that's in 2 weeks. In 3 weeks, Joshua, the geocaching vlogger, is coming back on the show, and he gave me the title to his, which is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And Joshua is doing something crazy, like you were talking about, Bryan. Joshua is going to be going out to Seattle. He is going to meet with that German group that is flying in and they're taking a train to Vancouver, and then they're going to take buses to, I don't know, they're going all over. They're basically trying to fill Jasmer, and they're going to do this whole crazy thing together. And so Josh was going to come on the show in 3 weeks and give us an update of how it was tooling around the Western U.S. with some great German geocachers. So we're looking forward to that show in 3 weeks. So, well, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Email us your comments at geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Geocache Talk, or mine's at Gary Slinkard. Our Instagram is Geocache Talk. Jesse has been doing a lot on for us on Instagram with his is Memphis Mafia, all one word. And our Facebook is, of course, facebook.com/Geocache Talk. Show can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, and of course the Geocache Talk website, geocachetalk.com. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button below and ring that little bell there so you can get reminded of the show and see and hear it on a weekly basis. Tell your friends about the show and have them be involved and join in the chat room. We have a very active chat room. It flows now, doesn't it, Jesse? It just kind of rolls now with so many folks. It's good. That's a good thing. And but it's so neat to see everybody there in the chat room, and just the chance to participate together and ask good questions. We have a great chat room bunch. So anyway, very good. Well, until next week, don't just talk about geocaching. Do what Bryan does and what we do, and that is you got to get out and go geocaching. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Cheers. Happy caching, everybody.